Hey guys, I'm going to have a quick video for you about solving percent problems that involve word problems as well as sales tax and discounts. This is a very, very important video, so make sure you guys are paying close attention to it. If you need to watch it more than once, I highly recommend it. We've already gone over this in class, but make sure, again, this is just a useful resource for you guys to have. The first way, there are two methods we solved percent problems with, and that was one being the proportion, and the second one being the equation. So method one is the proportion method, okay? It says write a proportion, but I'm going to remind you that it's is over of equals percent over 100. I also want to remind you of these things. Is representing your portion of the total. So if you're finding a part or a percentage or a portion of the total, you're finding that's what the is would be. Your of represents the total, and your percent is obviously your percentage of the total. So we can use this proportion method to solve all kinds of percent problems. So for example, this first percent problem, it says, what is 30% of 120? Another way to write this problem would just be 30% of 120. You'll see that on some of your homework. Okay? So when you think about it, I'm finding a portion or a part or a percentage of 120. So with that said, I like to label what my is would be. Since we're finding the portion or the part of the total, that's going to be x. My of, okay, my total, again, referring back to what I just wrote up top, the total would be 120, and it's obvious that my percent is 30%. Now, when we plug into the proportion, we're literally replacing is over of equals percent over 100 with what I've taken from the question. So my is was x, okay, my of was 120, my percent was 30. When we use the proportion method, we write the percentage as the whole number, 30% over 100. I now solve the proportion like we've done on the last test and like you've already learned in class. So with that said, I'm going to reduce the proportion or the ratios in each one. So I now have x over 120 is equal to 3 over 10. Again, I just reduced 30 over 100 to 3 over 10. Now I can just cross multiply and solve by using butterfly. So I would have 10x is equal to 360. And I'd solve that equation by dividing both sides by 10 to get x by itself. And I get x is equal to 36. All right, using the same method, I'll solve this problem. It says, what percent of 30 is 50? Again, we'll use the second method. The first method. We'll use the proportion. Okay, so again, remind yourself, we need to find an is, an of, and a percent. Okay, and then we will use is over of equals percent over 100. So it says what percent? We don't see even a percentage sign there, so we know we're finding the percent. That's easy. So what percentage of 30 is 50? Okay, so it says what percent of 30? Well, I know this is a little weird. You can also look at the lettering. What percentage of this total 30? So again, of 30. 30 would be your of, which is the total, is 50. I know this looks weird. You're going to see this here in a second. But your is would be 50. Again, you can kind of see of 30 is 50 also helps you. So let's plug this into our proportion. If your is 50, your of is 30. We don't know the percent. It's always out of 100. I then can reduce my ratios. This would be 5 over 3 is equal to x over 100. Cross multiply. You get 3x is equal to 500. Divide both sides by 3. And x is going to equal whatever 500 divided by 3 is. You would have to do that math. And it would be 166.6 repeating percent. So that would be your percentage. You need to make sure you label your percentage. So just so you know, when a number like 30 is increased to 50, there's a percentage greater than 100%. We're going to talk about that later. So that's method 1 with the proportion. Now let's talk about method 2. Method 2 is the equation. Is equals percent times of. Again, once we can figure out is represents a portion of the total, the of, it represents the total amount, and the percent is obviously the percent. So it says write an equation and solve. We're going to use this formula. It's like, again, something just like the proportion. Once we find our is, of, and percent, we can plug it right in and solve. The only difference in the equation method is that the percent must be written in decimal form. That is very, very important. So again, we're going to do the same exact thing as what we did before, but now we're going to use just a different method. We will get the same answer. You could use either method, but just make sure you know how to do both. So let's read it. 50 is 34% of what number? So when I read this, I say 50 is a percentage, 34% exactly, of some total amount, of some number. So 50 is the portion of the total. Okay, so that's my is. And also, if you look at the words, 50 is. Okay, our percentage is obviously 34%. Okay, we don't know our of. It says of what number. All right, so we're going to use this formula right here. Is equals your percent times of, with you remembering that your percent must be written in decimal form. So let's plug in what we have. 50 equals, says 34%. You must write it as 0.34. Okay, using the Dr. Pepper method, we went from percentage to decimal, times x. We don't know the of. Now, we just have a basic equation right here. Now, to solve for x, we want to get the x by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.34. Okay? And now, what happens is, this will cancel out to 1, and we just write it as 1x, just like that, and that's exactly what we want. And then off to the side, I'm going to have to do 50 divided by 0.34. And what would happen is I'd move back to this is old stuff, you should know this. If I move the decimal to the right twice to create a whole number, I've got to move it to the right twice over here. Fill the buckets with zeros. 34 goes into 50 one time. Subtract, you get 16. 34 doesn't go into 16, so I bring down the 0. I believe this would go in 4 times. Okay, so that would be 136, I believe. Subtract, you get 24. Doesn't go in. Bring down the 0. Okay, this is going to go in. 34 goes into 240. Just gonna think about this one for a sec. Okay, it's going to go in 7 times. Actually, it's going to go in 6 times. Okay, and you would get, let's see, that would be 180 plus 24, would be 204. Okay, actually, you know what? I made a mistake. That's going to go in 7 times. So, sorry guys. This would give me the 238. I'd subtract 2. Doesn't go in. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And 34 doesn't go in. All of a sudden, you got to sorry guys. Okay, so 34 doesn't go into 20, so you got to put in your 0. Bring down 2. This is going to go in 5 times. And I'm going to stop there. I'm going to round to the nearest 100. So we would find that x is equal to 147.05. So when you think about it, 50 is 34% of what number? It's about 147.05. Again, kind of a messy problem with decimals, but we also need to know our decimal operations. Let's try another one. 30 is 75% of what number? This should be over here. So let's find our is, our percent, and our of. We obviously know that we have 75%. says 30 is a percentage or a portion, so is a portion, that is 30, and then we don't know our total amount or so let's plug it in. 30 equals, again, 75% must be written like this, okay? We don't know our of, subtract both sides. Whatever's attached to x, you need to subtract because we want the x by itself. This would cancel out, and then we do 30 divided by 0.75. Again, you can go ahead and do that. The 30 divided by 0.75 is exactly 40. Okay? And I'll do one more. 15 is what percent of 75? Again, it helps me labeling my is, my percent, and my of. 15 is what percent? We don't know our percent. You don't see a percentage symbol even in our problem. So 15 is a percentage or a portion of this 75, which 75 is the total, 15 is the portion. Okay? Again, using the equation, is equals percent times of. Let's plug it in. 15 is equal to, we don't know the percent. Our of is 75. Again, this is identical to what we did up top. We want this x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 75. Okay? Now it cancels out to 1. This is x, just 1x, is equal to whatever 15 divided by 75 is. And this would give you 0.2. Now this is important. It wanted your answer as a percentage. We got our answer as a decimal, in decimal form. So you need to change your percent back to a, you need to change your decimal back to a percent. I'm going to move it to the right, decimal place twice to the right, which gives me 20% as my answer. So that's part one of our video. You guys really need to pay attention to this because we're about to get into another video when we're now going to see some word problems dealing with percentages. It all applies, it's all the same thing. But again, you learned the two methods today. Proportion method being is over of equals percent over 100. Remember the percentage sign is written as a normal whole number. And then when in method 2 in the equation, is equals percent times of, our percent is written in decimal form. Again, good problems for you to look over and make sure you understand this. My next video is going to be over the word problems, so you need to pay close attention because all of this stuff that we just taught on the video applies.